I have just been intimidated by the master of ceremonies suggesting that I should speak in Setswana. Unfortunately, my Setswana will be very embarrassing, and especially in a public gathering like this. So I'll refrain from embarrassing myself. The man who's just spoken here, Raisaka Masebelanga, is also a friend of mine. We went to university together, and I did not have an accommodation, and he provided his room where I was the squatter. And the problem of being a squatter is that in the discussions in the room, he must always win. Otherwise, he has to remind me about my status in the room. So when the family and him asked me, I could not but agree, because ours is not to ask the reason why. But what is most important is really some of the words that he had actually said about us. In a sense, the speakers that spoke before us, they did one thing, indicate that Karabo was a promise that was destroyed before our eyes. And as I was thinking this morning, I was also thinking about Raisaka's brother, who also he referred to, because Raisaka's brother was my student. Raisaka's brother, younger brother, wanted to become a doctor. And even though he didn't study the sciences in high school, when he finished, he asked me for help. And we managed to nurture him, to support him, and he became one of the people's doctors. And unfortunately, like many young people, he was killed tragically. But I want to say a few words that will depart from what Raisaka said, which goes back to what the pastor was saying about the time to heal. And I was reminded of that during the funeral of my own brother. And one of his friends said to me, you know, the shortest verse in the Bible, John 11, verse 35. And I was surprised that Raisaka could quote the Bible, because in all the years I've known him, he has never indicated that he has moved in that direction. But nonetheless, the Bible, the John 11, verse 35 says, Jesus wept. And that's the end of it. But what the friend of my brother was saying to me, that it is okay to cry. If Jesus, the Son of Man, could cry, it is also okay for us to cry. So we should not deprive ourselves the right to cry, to be in mourning. I know it is always very difficult to do so. And the other thing that one should mention is the beauty of our people. Our people are those that John Donne had in mind when he said, ask not for whom the bells tolls, it tolls for thee. And I'm happy that in this gathering, the people of Soweto came in us. I'm happy to see that the minister and the councillors are here. And I'm also happy that Karabo did touch South Africa to an extent that one of the things that was done beautifully was that there was a program on the radio that was dedicated to her. But what it shows is that for the Mokoena family, the statement that our people are making is that your pain is ours. And they went on. There was a song that took us back in the 70s, the 60s, and the 80s. There was a song that was played, it said, Senzenina. And the question was, that it was the question that came from women in this country, that what have we done to deserve this? Why is this promise of a new South Africa turning and metamorphosing into this nightmare? And in a sense, we should actually accept that somehow we had failed our children. One of the most interesting comments that came was that it would appear that sometimes our politicians are concerned about each other. And when you look at some of the energies that we have in this country, the level of hatred that some people are able to display, to say we hate so and so, and will march against so and so, while the trouble is with us. Let me tell you a very interesting story. In 2011, I went to the UK, and my arrival coincided with the British riots. And kids were looting, and some adults were looting the stores. And the following day, all the newspapers condemned what happened. All the newspapers. And all the politicians condemned what happened. There was never a moment where any of the people was trying to say, let's find a scapegoat to blame. The people were saying, not in our name, not my Britain. And what touched me was a black woman who called the police to say, come and arrest my daughter. Because that clip that I saw on television, that child who is looting is my daughter, not in my Britain. So we need to find a way where we say, this should not happen in our South Africa. But what it means is not to find scapegoats, that the trouble is with us. One of the most painful things, and the following day, you know what the kids did in Britain? At about 12 o'clock, most of them were in the street with broomsticks to clean the mess that others had caused. They took responsibility. In this country, we always want to find a scapegoat. Yet, the devil and the demon lives with us. So I think what we need to do is to use, just like Jesus' tears when he wept, he was actually saying, I'm with you, but there is something that I'm going to do. I'm going to give my life for you. So we should live our lives in such a way that what has happened should never happen. We always talk about never, never again. But what we resort to in this country is a default of saying, who can we blame? Instead of taking responsibility. The very same points that Raisaka was raising. I do not want to belabor this, but also to say to the family, there are times when it is so hard. And I do remember, you know, one of the things of being in this space is having walked the path. And a friend of mine called me when my brother was in a coma. And he said to me, my brother, what will be, will be. And I found those words so comforting, because there is a strong message that you are saying, that sometimes you need to accept there are things that are beyond you, that you can go so far and no further. So we have reached a stage where certain things are beyond us. But what is not beyond us is our right to take responsibility and to keep the dream that propelled Karabo to the heights that she rose to. Keep that dream alive. I will end by reminding ourselves, especially those of us who come from years where there was a promise. When Mandela went back to Robben Island, he, in his way, was talking to some of the journalists, and he looked at the quarry. And then he said to these fellows that in these stones, you will find the pain of our struggle. You will find the sorrow of our losses. And you will find the foundation of our victory. And what I'm pleading for is, let South Africa find in this pain also the foundation where we can rise, and that this should not happen. Let us take responsibility. Let us not find scapegoats. And I want to thank those who have come here to be with this family, to do what we always do. And you must always remember that sometimes we have what we call communal psychology, which we still have to unravel. But it was said by somebody many years ago, and it goes like, those who can sit with their fellow men, not knowing what to say, but knowing that they should be there, can bring life to a dying heart. I hope the Mokoena family, the presence of these people, and the words of encouragement that you have actually received. And I was also pleased that among those who came and who sent their condolences includes the president of this country and many others. Because it is not often that you find people who are willing to go to that extent to remember and to visit. Normally, our people, celebrities, they always hustle for photo opportunity only when there's a great person or a celebrity or some famous person who died. But what we say in our culture is that ask not for whom the bell tolls, it tolls for thee. May we find in this tragedy, in this pain, the foundation that will make sure that we emerge victorious out of what appears to be an unfinished business where we have not reconciled with ourselves, with our pain. I want to thank you.